If you love classic contemporary Christian music and the people that made it, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to help support us and keep us going. This is Stage Right, and I am your host, John Thorne. They say if you die with a handful of friends, you die a rich man. Well, I have several buses full, and I'm very excited to share them all with you. Welcome to Stage Right. I am your host, John Thorne. This is episode 25. So before I get into the show today, I want to give a shout out to a couple friends. Eddie Butler is a photographer that took photos in Florida, concerts, Christian concerts all over in Florida. And I used a picture he had sent me years ago for the thumbnail last week on the podcast. So if you saw the picture with Gersh looking up at me, that was a picture that Eddie Butler took. It's one of my favorite pictures of Gersh ever. So I also want to give a shout out to my good friend Ron Rockstar, who was actually one of my guests early on. And Ron has been taking pictures for years. He's a journalist in Montreal. Ron actually has been sending me photos, and the pictures I'm going to use this week and next week on Rick Florian's episodes, those photos were taken by Ron. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those two photojournalists before I get into my top 5 list today. So a couple weeks ago, I started a top 5 list at the beginning of my episodes just to give you a peek into the Christian music I listened to early on in my life that made me want to go into Christian music. So today, top 5 Imperials songs that featured Paul Smith. Number 5, Promise to Promise off the Side by Side album. Number 4, Jericho off the Let the Wind Blow album. Number 3, Somebody New off the Stand by the Power album. Number 2, Let the Wind Blow off the Let the Wind Blow album. And number 1, Stand by the Power off the Stand by the Power album. In my humble opinion, there would not be a contemporary Christian music scene the way there has been the last 30 years without the Imperials.
Hey Rockstar provides digital marketing software and services to generate more leads, more exposure, and more revenue for your business or organization. Let Hey Rockstar amplify your awesomeness.
Did you try to call me, or did I hang up on you?
My stupid earpods hijacked my call and wouldn't let it through to my computer.
How dare you?
I know, right?
So how's the weather up north?
The weather up north is sunny.
Yeah.
And it's about a foot of snow, 28 degrees, something like that.
That would have been last week, but we're definitely having a good one today. Sun is shining, and it's supposed to be like 62 today.
Nice. Very nice for you.
Yeah, nice is right.
Not for me, but anyways, tell everyone what you were doing a few minutes ago when you called me.
I was listening to some swing crooner jazz stuff.
Is that a genre you invented? Swing, crooner, jazz stuff?
Yeah. I dig that stuff. Oh, that's funny when I say I dig. That just sounds stereotypical. Dude, dig. That's like the Tommy thing. Dig, yeah.
So you were listening to Mel Torme.
Mel Torme was on. Steve Lawrence is on now, and I don't dig him that. He's fine.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of fine singers.
All right. You want to hear something funny about Steve Lawrence?
Sure.
Did you know Miyagi before Whiteheart ran lights for Steve and Edie?
That's right. Now that you say that, I do remember that. I would not have remembered that he was the one that did. There was somebody in our past that had run something like sound or something for them. But yeah.
Yeah, it was Miyagi though.
You know, he's on the beaches of Belize.
Oh, yes.
That he has a place down there.
Yes, he FaceTimed me about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, good. Yeah, I got to get back to him again.
Dude, you and Lisa should go see him.
We had a hurricane and I didn't know if he got hit, so I was checking to see if he was missed and all that stuff.
Well, that was nice of you.
That was several months ago.
He was in Michigan, I think, for 5 or 6 months, but now he's back in Belize.
Yes.
Okay, so let's get rolling here, Rick. How are you? Tell everybody how you're doing.
Are we recording, by the way? It's okay if we are or are not. I don't care.
Yes, we are recording. Say hello to your people.
Hey, everybody. I'm eating pistachios now.
So everyone grab a bowl of snacks and join us.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 25, Snack Time with Rick Florian, ladies and gentlemen. So when you call me, every time you call me, your name comes up on my caller ID and it's in large.
Well.
It's all caps.
There you go.
It's like you're yelling at me.
That's sad.
I might have done it for emphasis.
Well, it could be.
Because it actually has that kind of impact on my day when you call. So, all right. So let's dive in here, Rick. So you went to Taylor University.
Yes, I did.
And then named your firstborn after the university, correct?
I don't remember if it was that for sure. Everybody says it was that, but I don't remember that was actually the case. I think we just like the name, but you know, I'll kind of roll with whatever potential answer somebody feels, because it's not that vital. The accuracy of that is not vital to me. So,
so in other words, you just mean whatever's right.
Yeah. Whatever's the right answer is the one I'm sticking with. I just don't remember what it was.
Okay, so what was the first band you ever sang in?
Sang in?
Yeah, like what was your first band participation?
Like, I don't count swing choir my senior year in high school.
Yes, that would be a different category altogether.
Because we would have played to, I don't even know if we'd have had cassettes back in, what would that have been, about 1979 or something?
Yeah.
So, but that was the first time, because I grew up not listening to music, you know, and if, I don't know how to describe on a podcast what swing choirs were like in the late 70s or whatever, but it would just, you know, as a young high school boy, that was a chance to dance with girls, you know, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, where you do little spins, as cheesy as you could ever imagine, especially by today's standards. But that's the first time I ever heard the Beatles.
No way.
We were listening to a cheesy version of, I can't even remember which one it was at this point. But, you know, I started hearing a few little poppy things because we didn't, you know, listen to the radio in the car or anything. It was really the summer between my junior and senior year where I started, you know, even listening to mainstream music kind of stuff.
That's wild.
I joined that one penny. That one penny got me into Columbia House, and the rest is history. You got LPs of Fleetwood Mac Rumors and Boston and Dan Fogelberg. The first album I remember listening to was Fogelberg Netherlands.
Wow.
At David Fenstemacher's house. We were grooving to some wonderful, man, to this day, it's still the melodies that, they're just, he was such a great craftsman in a lot of ways. And a lot of his music wasn't real radio worthy by radio standards. That was what was so nice, is when you can kind of get into, you know, when your only influence is turning on the radio, you know, it's programmed. And so some of it on some levels, we even know from our industry what, you know, it wasn't always what the people wanted. It was just whatever radio said the people wanted.
Right.
And that went mainstream. And so some artists like that, or Steely Dan, you know, while they all had some modicum of success in mainstream, they didn't have the programmers would scratch their heads often at some of the stuff.
Right.
So my first concert I ever went to was Foreigner Hot Blooded Tour.
Nice.
In the Notre Dame Athletic and Convocation Center in South Bend. And that was one of the rare times I ever smelled the illicit odor of what was, to me at the time, burning leaves. I thought it was strange. It was.
Little did you know at the time there were so many people suffering from glaucoma.
No, I had no idea. Well, I was pretty sheltered, and so I really didn't have. It was really weird because they were militant when you walked in. There were people everywhere. No smoking, no smoking, no smoking. And then the concert started, and those people were gone. And it was so weird to me. It was like, whoa, the police the heck out of it, and now all of a sudden the lights are off, and they're, you know, And I'm like, man, what is that? It was, man, that guy, amazing singer.
Lou Gramm.
Amazing singer.
Yep.
It's so funny that we're talking now because I got a call that I usually don't answer phone numbers I don't know because I get marketed to all the time. But it was on my caller ID, something that seemed like it was a contractor or something that I needed to talk with. And I answered, and hey, this is, and I now can't remember his name, Jordan. He has a podcast. And he wanted to interview me. He said, I go, did you leave a message last week or something? Yep, that was me. And so I answered it. So now I've set up another podcast. And darn it, if I didn't just digress from my original point that I forgot why I even brought that up again.
Well, you were talking about Lou Gramm being a great singer, and then.
Oh, yes. Because in that we had a brief conversation, and he had just got done doing Elefante. And I'm just like, yeah, man, what an amazing singer that guy is. And I did gravitate to dudes who sang high.
Right.
And it made me work when I was in the car, screaming at the top of my lungs, playing my stuff. And
right. So you didn't grow up knowing you could sing? Like you didn't have aspirations at 15 of being a great singer?
Oh, goodness, no. No, I was just a little farm boy out in the boonies in northern Indiana, making a fort in the tree or feeding the sheep or,
right.
Just random items like, very unassuming, boring northern Indiana rural lifestyle, which was great. I'm thankful I grew up that way. And I have wonderful, fond memories of growing up. I loved it. So
I have a question. Are you cooking lunch?
Yes, that would be chicken noodle soup that I put in the microwave. See, I'm a professional now. So, if you were, maybe when in my music days, I'd have done that to be quirky. And now it's just nice because it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's like, well, it's time for me to eat, but I also have some free time and talk to my friend John just to say what's up and just, hang out. So I had a few pistachios.
Dude, that's great.
I got a little watered down cranberry juice and
right.
Sitting back. So.
All right. 2 points before I move on.
Yeah.
First of all, Foreigner was my first ever concert as well.
Wow.
But it was before their first album came out. They opened for the Doobie Brothers.
Oh.
And it was at Jennison Fieldhouse where Magic Johnson played at Michigan State.
Yeah.
And probably a lot like the arena you saw him at in Notre Dame.
Uh-huh.
And the second point I was going to make, I can't remember, dude. Let's just move on. So let's move on. Okay, so you go to Taylor University. Did you start singing there?
Well, at Taylor, again, because I'm getting a biology degree, mainly because I didn't like anything else, and I liked creation, the being out, the stuff outside that God's made. It's just, I've always just been intrigued by it and how we, to walk by a leaf. And if you really think about the physiology and the anatomy of it, it's just stupid how that so simply, it appears, does its gig every year and drops off and moves on to the next year. And that's just one of the, billions of little things that, plus just being out. I've been showing a couple clients some deer hunting property lately. And when you're just out walking around in the midst of life that gets us running and busy and everything,
right?
You can't do anything else but just you're just walking and looking and visiting with whoever you're with and stuff. And that is a wonderful place of peace for me, or a little bit also when I'm just looking at the birds on the feeder in the backyard. I just love doing nothing as I get older is one of my favorite things. Life has us doing so much stuff that when we can stop and consider, think, look, ponder, big picture, little picture stuff, it's just, I love it.
I think the more you slow down, the more you see for sure. It brings everything that's blurry into focus.
When I mentioned before we got going, it's like I got emails and texts and some research I got to do and all these different things. But when you stop doing that for a bit, whether it's communing with the one who made us or just looking at the beautiful things that he did and does. It's kind of what we're made for. I mean, we're made for a relationship with him. That's what he made us for.
Yep.
And then with each other. Mm-hmm. And then repairing all the things we bust up along the way.
Right. Even if it's what we do to ourselves.
Yes, for sure.
In a lot of cases.
Mm-hmm.
So you graduate from Taylor, you have a degree in biology.
Yes.
Why did you move to Nashville when you did?
Well, when you mentioned that original question, when we were first in a band, at Taylor, my junior year, I did a duet of a Steve Archer tune. I think the name of it's like Wherever Your Treasure might be.
There your heart also. I had that album, dude.
And I did a duet with the dude on my floor, Mark Vanderveen.
Hey, Mark.
Mark, if you're listening, thank you.
Yes.
And when we did that at this, like they had at the main auditorium, they have a
talent show.
What do they call it? It's like a talent night kind of thing. You could do poetry if you wanted.
Showcase.
But we did that. And then Jeff Moore, a senior at Taylor, and Arlen Troyer, they came up and said, hey, we got this little band thing we put together. Would you sing background vocals for us? And I've never done anything like that. I've sang in choirs and things like that. But I'm going to go, oh, my gosh, that'd be insane. That'd be awesome. And so I did that. And we only played like a couple events and gigs kind of thing. And then the next year, the guys that were left over, we kind of kept things together after Arlen and Jeff left. And like the keyboard player played bass because that's what Arlen did. And, I did the lead thing. Then got a different keyboard player. But anyway, all I'd say is, started getting the music bug in me some. And so when I'm graduating with a biology degree and my parents helped pay for the majority of school, I'm like, hey, would you mind if I took a break before grad school for marine biology to go do, like, get on the, see if I can do anything in music down in Nashville. Because Jeff had moved down there, so I knew him. And
right.
So that was just kind of I'd never been west of Illinois, like Chicago. And so I thought if I could just get on the road with somebody and I got not long after, about 4 months after being down there, Chaz Corzine, a friend who had been a short time at Taylor University, he had got me a gig driving a truck for Smitty for the Friends tour where they're playing sheds and that kind of thing all around the country. So I drove from New York, Miami. Where did I go? I went up to the Northwest. I think it was Seattle, because I remember the one little minor accident that I had driving the straight truck on the way to Irvine, California, basically L.A.
What?
Had to do an all-nighter, and I didn't sleep because I remember we were in San Francisco. And it was like an 8-hour drive, so all night, and took out part of one of those big green interstate signs as I fell asleep.
Oh, no.
And the first time I ever put tobacco to my lips was the only way to stay awake.
Crazy.
On that night at 2 a.m, I'm like, crud, dude, I got to stay awake. And so I had a horrible Swisher Sweet, which is a garbagey cigar-like device but it kept me awake, so I didn't hit the ditches anymore.
Well, let me just say you successfully and adequately described the character of the Swisher Sweet.
Yeah, that should not. I don't know. I mean, people, I guess, shouldn't be against the law to make stuff like that, but it should have more warning labels than just cancer.
Right. Okay, so how did you get out of the ditch with Smitty?
Yeah.
And then end up on stage as the stage manager with Whiteheart?
Yeah, well, Jeff, who had moved the year before down to Nashville, he had just finished his first album, and one of the guys in Whiteheart, Billy Smiley, had produced the album. And when I came down, he was when I came down to visit before I'd even moved down, he was kind of hooked up a little bit with knowing some of the Whiteheart guys.
Right.
And he said, hey, I am, with my new album, I'm going to open for Whiteheart.
Oh, cool.
So, and I know they're looking for another stage manager. Why don't you, because the Smitty thing was getting close to, what would that have been, 85? Yeah, 85, probably around Augusty, something like that. Smitty's gig was ending. And actually, his ending and me starting with on the road with Whiteheart on the road crew was Night of Joy. They do down at Disney every year, because both Whiteheart and Smitty were down there. So I kind of was shifting from one to the other on that weekend.
Oh, crazy.
So I, started going out on the road with them.
Wow. Okay, so how long were you the stage manager and on the road with Whiteheart before you actually auditioned to be in the band?
Not long, because when their lead singer had to leave, because I started, like probably August, September-ish, something like that. Auditions were in the winter.
Oh my goodness.
It was probably like December, January, I guess. So just months later.
Right.
Months later. But they got to know me some. I think the reason they let me try out, I think was, well, we think he's probably not a mass murderer. Let's let him have a shot with the other guys when he goes up there.
So because they knew you, they gave you a shot.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's, because sometimes if you get a good tape, you might listen to a guy, but it doesn't hurt to have some experience with somebody. But you're always still kind of interviewing friends of the potential, singer or bass player or whatever, because you want to find out who they are as a human as best you can.
Okay, so they let you audition and you get the gig.
Mm-hmm.
So how long before you actually felt comfortable on stage and not like you were in a parallel universe?
Yeah, well, I do remember like the first show that I ever did, it was at Wheaton. And actually my daughter, we stopped at several different schools over the last year or two, looking at schools she might go to. And when we were in Chicago, we went by Wheaton, and I remember going, I just hang on a second, with the tour guide person. I just wanted to stand on that stage that we were there and go, I forget, we said how many years it was from that point, but it's goodness, like 30 or something, which is just hilarious.
Crazy.
How long ago it was.
Yep.
But, okay, what was your question again?
The question can be whatever you want it to be. No, did you feel like you were in a parallel universe?
I remember, because I've never done anything, when I played with Jeff, we played a church that had like 15 people there, and we played a youth lock-in,
right?
And I think DeKalb, Illinois, that had, maybe a couple hundred kids, like some youth lock-in thing. I thought I was going to spontaneously combust, because it was just so, here you are, there's 2,000 people in the audience, and they're all looking at you.
Right.
Every once in a while, they'll, look at the bass player. But, for the most part, they're all, the lead singer guy gets looked at the most. And it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yes, I can kind of sing high and run around hyperactively.
Right.
But, I felt like at times, like I ran so fast on stage, because then maybe their eyes couldn't keep up with me, because then they wouldn't see that I didn't have any business being up there, because they couldn't find me, kind of thing.
So you pretended their eyes were spotlights and you could outrun them.
Somehow inside, I think there was this like subliminal story that I was telling myself.
Yes.
So I just remember after about 2.5 songs and running 80 miles an hour, and I'm going, yeah. I go, okay, I got to slow down. Or I'm not going to be able to sing any words. And so, but man, I remember I was in that phone booth, because we had the Hotline song was the first thing that opened the show, and Fog and all this kind of stuff. And I just remember, holy cow, that was like, yeah, it was nuts. And then over time, thankfully, you lose the anxiety.
Right.
Almost all of it. You still have a hype element of it,
right,
but the
fright,
the fear, thankfully over time goes away.
Right. Okay. Well, what was it like going into the studio for the very first time to record with Whiteheart on Don't Wait for the Movie?
Oh, yeah, that was, the Whiteheart guys, for the most part, were a bunch of, and some still are, studio players, singers, writers, producers, and all this kind of stuff. So, but I was inexperienced enough not to know what that even meant.
Wow.
I don't even, because again, I didn't dig into all of those kind of things or understand them or even try to understand them for a while.
Right.
And so, like, Dan Huff, cool, whatever, and it's that kind of thing where it wasn't, because like when they would like play, I was like, well, golly, these guys like, when I compared it to, and they're very good friends, some still from college, it was like, these guys are really a lot better. And those friends of mine would still smile to this day, I'm sure.
Well, your friends knew that those guys were a lot better.
Well, it's like, but I didn't really even know then. I just knew, God, these guys are just, they don't even have to, they don't have to practice almost. Now they did on a certain level.
Sure.
But what they were doing is playing to continue the creative side of what a song was going to become, not playing it so they didn't make mistakes.
Right.
They were playing it to evolve a song along in the process when you're in the studio. It's like, the hat needs to on this spot and all these different things. It's really an amazing thing when you can have that many talented people around doing a thing like that. I mean, sometimes you bang heads a little, because everybody's has worthy things that they could share. And, as opposed to one guy that kind of had all the gifts and everybody else is riding coattails or something. So there was just a lot of,
right,
people that had some strong talents, and you just try to keep putting it all together and, learning on a mic how to work the microphone and how to hear yourself, even just the different, the first time I'm half making this up, but I'm sure this is how it went, is, the engineer there's going like, okay, what do you want in your mix, Rick? And I would have said, what?
Right.
I'm 80% sure my first response was what? Because I don't know what the heck he's talking about. And it's like, because when you listen back, you get to have control of all of the elements, how much of your level you want, how much do you want a scratch vocal in there? What is a scratch vocal? Do you want, what you start learning, the things that can be what you need to have so that you can do you, because sometimes you might want a little piece of everybody
right
in the band, but sometimes you want very little. But most of the time, whatever was giving me the pitch tone, if it was off in the guitar, I would want a lot of guitar rhythm typically, but it just depends on the song. But I want guitar, and then I want something for time. And somebody like McHugh, which was, really the click itself.
Yes.
But I needed to have time, because when you hear people live, a lot of times you will hear, and I know this even just singing at church, vocalists want to rush almost all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They don't sit back in the pocket well.
Right.
And it didn't take me long, thankfully, to find that place of sitting in the pocket, because when the vocalist is in that pocket with the rhythm section, it can be, for me, when I hear that kind of stuff, it's wonderful, but it's to the contrary, when it's not there, it's a distraction.
Absolutely.
And it's, for good or for bad, it makes me not like a song. Mm-hmm. If I'm hearing, and I'll even hear some big hits on radio that are like, God, man, you could have just pulled that back. Why didn't you do that? I mean, it's right. It makes me sometimes not enjoy songs. But,
I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's that kind of, there's technical elements that make the art ultimately together. I guess, like if a painter is going to use certain kind of brushes when they're painting, because they want to see what the stroke looks like when it hits the canvas and how the paint
Right.
pulls off with that. So that you have these different things that you're creating that when the whole piece is done, and bringing it all together, there's just a lot of moving pieces,
Right.
a lot of moving parts, and, trying to get it all together to look happy.
Happy is good. But answer this. How many songs into your first album did it take you before you actually felt comfortable singing on a microphone with headphones on with people in another room listening and telling you everything you're doing wrong?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. Because a lot of times, and I know that was probably the band's biggest fear with having me be the singer, was I was so
green,
playback, raw, whatever.
Yeah.
That, frankly, not studio smart at all. And so the patience that you have to, work in that environment for the other people, you just have to have patience,
right?
Because so many technical things are trying to be gotten and understood that it's a lot more work for them.
Sure.
And sometimes tedious. And so I don't know, because a lot of times, like when I think down the road doing the albums, we would spend a day on a vocal for one song.
Right.
We could get a couple done in a day every once in a while, but for the most part, because you're going in and, like, let's say we're going to hit the verse. Sometimes the song, it felt like, let's just work on the verse for right now, or let's just work on the chorus. And then you sing a bunch of passes,
right?
Like where, because you got many tracks that you can use.
Yep.
And so you might get a groove, sing in the verse, okay, we got this. Okay, now let's take it. And so then you sing through that verse, then you do another pass and another pass. And we would usually do anywhere from 4 to 6 passes. And then, especially if we were at the Bennett House, which is a wonderful environment to make albums, we'd leave the poor engineer there to go edit all and comp out all the vocals so he could find all the best ones that he thought was the things that were best. We'd come back after a break, see what he had. He might go, I got everything here, see what it sounds like. We go, yeah, we got to get this phrase and this phrase. Or at least everything was great, but that one word on that one's bad, so we got to punch that or try to get a whole new line. Just all this,
right.
All the drudgery side of doing that work.
Right.
And yet you still want it all to feel like it was one seamless take when you're done. So I'm animated enough, I think, was helpful to get that out there, but it was still me understanding some of the things in my voice that I didn't know what I was doing when they wanted something from me, especially early on.
Right.
If they wanted something, I didn't know how to make my voice do what they were trying to tell me. Some of it was cognitively, I didn't quite understand what they were trying to tell me to do. And some of it was, I don't know, I understand what you're saying, but I don't know how to make my voice create that thing, when you're talking about a simple thing like more air in the voice,
right? Or
an intonation, obviously, because early in career, there's no, you can't, what's the plugins they got for?
Melodyne.
Yeah. Things that make you,
yep.
If you were pitchy on a line or something, they just push a button and now you're not pitchy.
Yeah. Well, back when you did it, you actually had to be able to sing.
Yeah. Had to be able to sing on key. Yes.
Yeah. Well, dude, you're being a little bit hard on yourself because the reality is it is brutal to go in the studio for the first time and have to deliver with people staring at you that have never stared at you before. I think Don't Wait for the Movie is an amazing record.
Well, it is, it's hard to think back that long ago, but it would be great if, when you did all your dumb little video stuff on the side, that if there was an actual, days and days worth of video that you could have edited down, it would be curious to see what, even just picking one song.
Yeah.
What that session was like early on to get me to do what I needed to do. I know early on the stamina wasn't there, but when you're in the studio, you can take breaks.
Right.
Till it kind of kept working it in. It would have just been curious to whether on these basic things of, air, breathing, time, intonation, and and feel. I mean, you can, the way that a word comes out sound wise can have some effect on the feelings that song will have. And
Sure.
so there's just a lot of moving parts to make all that stuff come together, even just from one of the instruments.
Right. Okay, so answer this. Do you have a favorite Whiteheart album in terms of recording experience?
Yeah, probably Freedom.
Freedom?
It really was Freedom. I don't think they could think of anything differently. What made it, one of the elements I think that made it better was having Brown as even though everybody definitely had input all the time, but there was enough trust in who Brown was that he could care for the show,
right.
Kind of run the show too, and that's his job as a producer, to do all that. And people, if he's asking people to try something, they believed enough in him to do it.
Right.
Because again, you have these skilled guys in there that, we don't need to do that. Somebody would, if it's somebody you don't trust,
right.
I think I like what we got now.
Right.
Next,
Yep.
If you ever get into those situations, that is, that's a killer.
Okay, so out of all the songs you recorded and sang with Whiteheart, all those great albums, do you have a favorite song you recorded or a favorite vocal performance that turned out spectacular that you were happy with?
There probably, at least that would come to mind, there isn't a song that I can think of that it would have been the favorite one to record. I will say, one of the easiest things we ever recorded that ended up one of the best things I think we did was the Little Drummer Boy cover.
Oh, yeah.
Of all things.
It's ridiculous, dude. It's such a great vocal.
It just happened.
Wow.
It just did its thing. It happened, and that was wonderful. But even outside of, all of that, some of it might be more of what I liked hearing at the end of, like, when the product was, done. And, I don't know, because each album had songs I liked more than others. If I think of like a song that I think is like one of the biggest eye rolls, would be probably God Made Convertibles. And I understand why they did it, and
right.
And that makes sense. It does. It was a song that probably needed to exist, but gosh, when I hear it now, it just like, it's frightening to me. But there were so many songs, even some of the later stuff, like one of the few songs that I wrote primarily, which was almost never, Inside, was probably the darkest song that I can think of off the top of my head, at least, that we ever did.
Right.
Kind of musically and lyrically. And it was a little outside from the harder side of where we went, that I was surprised that I could bring something that could be something. That was kind of fun, I guess.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, I didn't have much hand at all in the writing of things, obviously, especially early on. That was a kind of a song that's, I don't know what I would consider better or worse, just a more unique feeling that I have about a song. Another one. And
it was a great song. I loved it.
Yeah, the video was crazy.
The video was crazy.
I always wanted to break my head through glass, or in this case, hard syrup. That, what are they, breakaway glass they have for
right
movies and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to name off some songs, and you tell me the first thing that comes to your mind.
Yeah.
70 times 7.
Yeah, that was a broadly, like if it would be like on Whiteheart fan liked songs, definitely, top 5, I think, at least from the ballad side. I think it'd probably be top 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Maybe Today, Maybe Tomorrow.
I like the vocals. There's something about the melody that I really like in that one. Hard song to sing. It stays up there pretty long.
Yeah, for sure.
Those songs like that had a glide to them in the choruses.
That's why I loved it.
They stay up there vocally fairly high, and they ride. It's kind of like dynamically, while there is some dynamics in that song, the chorus is like this pretty good sized wave that just keeps rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And man, melody is just everything to me. That's why I can't stand certain genres of music.
Exactly.
Where, I mean, there's some like hip hop, like this, some of my kids like hip hop stuff. And while I've come to appreciate genres rather than be just like an old man on the front porch, it's still not anything that I would listen to. But at least in hip hop, I hear melody sometimes.
Right.
And that is just like the hook for me. There's something in the sounds that go up and down like that in some kind of a pattern that elicits attraction. It's like something's happening there. And so, so any of the stuff that were heavy on melody, that if I heard that melody today, that could still sound good to me.
Right.
Unlike God Made Convertible. So that's definitely a song that I would dig. Unchained would be another one kind of.
Right.
Like that chorus. I've always really liked that one.
It was definitely a great song. What was it like singing 3-part on a song like Unchained? You guys kind of had a signature sound on those.
Was that the one that I sang the BGVs on?
I wasn't there that day.
Well, there was a couple times every once in a while when I wanted to sing all the vocals.
Right.
It wasn't often at all. Even The Hardest Heart, I think, was one of them.
Yes.
I don't think I did all the vocals on that one, though. That was one of the things that, and I think it was somewhat probably signature for us of the cluster that, Gersh and Billy and I would have that was a thing, and Gordon back in the day, or even Tommy when they were in.
Right.
I'm so thankful that some of the guys how they could sing too,
right,
not just play.
Yep.
That helped to elevate the level of what we could bring.
Yeah, the background vocals for sure was one of many things that set Whiteheart apart from most bands. Did I lose you?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening. I was just going to let you pat us on the back, man. That was all.
Okay. All right. So Montana Sky, one of my all-time favorites.
I just always think about where that song came from, and from a friend who had passed away. I mean, that's immediately the first thing I think of every time I hear that song.
Right.
Or the name of the song. And that was a really sad, hard time, especially for one of the guys in the band. And that is the primary thing that hits me every time I hear that song.
Right. Well, let's talk about another Whiteheart ballad that is synonymous with your voice, Desert Rose.
Yeah, that was a fun, something beyond fun, but I did love the melody of how that chorus hangs out. I remember because I'm ADD enough that it randomly, that song actually got me to sing a McDonald's jingle.
No way.
I'd put a tape together because I was a AFTRA member and SAG and that kind of stuff. And there was a jingle house out of Cincinnati that had was listening to some Nashville singers, in the union, and and the guy that ended up using me said, this song's why I wanted you to do the jingle.
Oh my gosh.
And which is that's a little side note, having absolutely nothing to do with the song that I think of when I think of that song, because I really think it was, musically speaking, especially, I think it was, I think it was just really well done.
Yeah.
I just feel like it was probably one of the I don't know, again, how you say what was your best song or whatever, but as far as ballads go,
yeah,
one could argue that was the best thing we ended up working out.
Right. It's a beautiful song, man. And it's one of your best recorded vocals ever. And I want to get to another one of what I think is your best recorded vocals, one of the top 3.
Yeah.
And that's Independence Day off the Powerhouse album.
Any songs that make me dance is good. And at least from my perspective.
Just don't hurt your neighbor.
Yeah, I kind of forgot. I would. Is that what I said?
You all every night.
Yeah. Okay. Well, just because I'm not like I would run around and you can call it dance, but it wasn't anything that a choreographer would go, oh, let's all do that. It was just general flailing and hyperactivity with some element of rhythm involved in, in calisthenics and, just, I don't know, some kind of combination of all that stuff.
All right. So when Gersh was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago,
yeah,
we were talking about you and we were talking about how great a singer you are. And then we were talking about you on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually said, I want to get your reaction to this. I actually said, Rick is like a 3-year-old in a sandbox when he's on stage. He will get up there and play with whatever's there.
Well, yeah, there's this part of me, it is in the moment of what you do up there on stage, kind of the art of it, you get to do whatever you want.
Yes.
The freedom that you have to kind of do whatever you want.
Absolutely.
And people are watching you do whatever you want. And whatever you end up doing, somebody out there liked it.
Dude, that's a great way to put that.
Even if it was really, if you took a poll at the end of the song or something,
right?
They go, 20% said that was my favorite. Another 20 said that was my favorite. Another one, and they would all have their, he should never do that again. He should never do that again. He should never do that. Because everybody earns the right to some opinion when they pay money to come to see art. And, and so whether it's music or whatever. And so, yeah, it is just having fun. The two best parts of live are enjoying the people when I can on stage and enjoying the people off the stage.
Right. Connecting
with them in a way that only that situation allows.
Right.
You got babysitters out there. You spent money on that, spent money on the tickets. You put a lot into just getting here tonight.
Right.
And so, man, the least I can do is try to have fun with you, try to talk about some stuff that we think matters. And here we go.
I got to tell you, dude, there was so much of the stuff you did on stage that was spontaneous. I mean, you had things you did every night, but it wasn't choreographed, and there certainly weren't coaches that came in and taught you to do anything. You were up there having the time of your life every night, and it was amazing. You're one of the best frontmen I ever seen in any band, anywhere, anytime.
Well, in my little continued ADD thoughts, no, I challenge any of your interviews to be this random, but it has a tie. Probably the most angry I was with you ever on stage. There's only one time I ever even remember ever being angry with you on stage.
I remember.
Was that you caused me severe pain. And this was in Australia. We were doing a tour with
DC
was it still
Talk.
DC Talk.
Yep.
That's how old we are. Doing a tour with DC Talk, and we're out at the hotel, and the guy's telling us, man, we get more skin cancer down here in Australia, so make sure you're not out long, put on sunscreen, whatever. And I think I was only out 45 minutes or something.
Yep.
And I got the worst sunburn I'd ever had in my whole life.
It was brutal.
We're doing this show, and towards the end, you threw me on your shoulders. And so my thighs that are laid over your shoulder are on fire before you threw me on your shoulder. So then it is you are so tank built. Those of you on the iPod, what are we doing? Podcast cannot see Fine Thorn's upper appendicular skeleton and the girth of his limbs. So he can lift me up and throw me over his shoulder, and I'm pounding him on his back, and he's not putting me down, probably because I'm so scrawny that I'm hardly having an effect on him. But I mean, I'm pounding it's loud, screaming music. So he can't hear me say, I'm going to shoot you if you don't put me down right now. You know, I think I was probably going, sunburn, sunburn, and hitting you with each of the, and then eventually you got it.
Yeah.
And they put me down, and yeah. So that was the only time I ever remember being unhappy with you on stage.
Sorry.
It makes me laugh now, though. That's good.
Well, I don't know how far down the Coppertone Highway you want to go, but dude, you had no pores. You were sweating and it was bubbling up because your skin had no pores.
Yeah, it was bubbling up. The sweat was bubbling into the dead skin, like creating, yeah.
But of course, I didn't know that until after I had carried you off stage.
Yeah. It was a little late, but you know.
Dude, we all felt terrible for you. It was like days and days of you laying on the bed just trying to stay cool.
No, it's a great part of history, baby.
Well, there's a small dose of irony because if I hadn't picked you up and carried you off stage, we wouldn't be talking about it today.
That's right. See?
Right. Okay, let's get back to some songs here before we run out of time today. All right, so Tales of Wonder, the song is Silhouette. What are your thoughts on that song?
Yeah, it's a vibey song. It's a little less typical, at least because of the program that runs, you know, the syncopated little thingy. I love the melody. There's times where I think about that production and I'm like, well, it's okay. You know, the song, I almost feel like as I sit today in 2021, that song is a little better than the production.
Interesting.
It's still great. It's still, I don't know, I shouldn't say great, probably. It's good or whatever.
Yeah.
But I wonder what else it could do.
Right.
Because there's something about the melody. Again, it's kind of a haunting thing. And part of it, the production creates that, elicits that. But I don't know.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I listen to XM radio all the time, and you've got 70s channels, 80s channels, and there are just monster great songs from those decades, but you listen to the sounds and they sound dated. If I was an old artist, I would go in and re-record all of my hits using modern drums, new keyboards, new technology, and I'd make them sound great.
Like Taylor Swift. Oh.
I wouldn't make them sound perfect like she does. I would, though, however, make them sound current.
No, but I understand what you're saying. If I, you know, was independently wealthy and wouldn't have to work anymore, doing some stuff like that with a few of the old guys would be fun.
Yeah.
I could see that being fun. I have zero interest in it because I have so many obligations in my life that I can't meet right now, that the thought of that just gives me so much stress. It's why, you know, when people go, hey, wouldn't you want to go back and try to do some songs or do something? It's like, no, I don't. I don't want to do anything. No. Now, you know, like being with some of the guys with Gersh or Gordon or something. I was just talking with Gersh yesterday. And, you know, there's still a few of the guys that I talk with a lot, but others don't, not for, you know, well, for some, not for any good or bad reason, for some, but you know, it's just you know, our lives all have different things, but Gersh is the one and Gordon are the two that I talk to the most. Right. And usually pop in either via text or call or something almost every week. Or we'll have like Gersh and Bryn and Gordon and Tracy or Blair. I don't know if anybody knows Blair Masters. We love when they'll come over, and Scott Bernard, even though he's kind of a faux White Hart guy. Yep. And he will come over, we'll just eat and hang in the backyard like old people sitting and talking, and that's all we do, and it's awesome. Right. Yeah, I remember when my folks did that when I was a kid. It was like, that is just, you guys are just sitting there talking. It's like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? It's like, it is like my favorite thing. Sit with good weather in the backyard, on the back patio, and just hang out. With good friends. Yes, it's just wonderful. So how often do you serve your Bubba Rick gumbo at these parties? Well, I actually made gumbo yesterday. Did you really? At those, I had to make this. I make small pot though, and the hard thing is the pot that I have, ADD coming in, the pot that I have that I make for my big gumbo hangs, like where for over 100 people. Right. You know, that one is really substantial, and the gauge on the metal is heavy. The one that I have just for like the medium thing, which is like 2 or 3 gallons. Yeah. It is not as good it's not as thick. So the problem is you want to cook it for a long time, like half a day to a day.
Right.
At least I do. And once I got all the parts in there, the problem is trying to find that temp where it doesn't burn.
Right.
Because I put so much solids in there, it all settles to the bottom.
Right.
So you got to like crank it up to get the bubbling going, so it pushes all the stuff off the bottom. But the problem is sometimes it doesn't. And then when you're cranking it up like that, it can be, even though gas is good to control cooking, it got a little toasty on the bottom yesterday, so I'm a little ticked.
I'm sure it was still good.
It wasn't burnt, but it was close enough to say hello. Yeah.
It was smoked gumbo.
Yeah, it kind of a little bit. But no, man, that is no. So we do a thing on, Xing out 2020 because of COVID. We do a thing in mid-October in our backyard where we do we set up a little stage. It started out as my wife said, I want to get some guys together and we just like play music, and just hang out and it's my birthday, come on, because her birthday's October 14th. And so we started about 5 years ago and we just play 70s cover tunes.
Oh, cool.
I like light pop. Some of the White Heart guys might eye roll on it, but where we might down in Jamaica, they got lots of free women. That kind of chill pop stuff.
Right.
I mean, we play a couple Eagles things or whatever, but we just set up a little stage out there. And the first year it kind of evolved in the conversation where we said, why don't, because my wife's best friend died of breast cancer about like 6-7 years ago. And she and another lady were her caregiver. And she realized how much it takes out of your life to care for somebody who can't care for themselves. The family's not either able or around to be able to daily do care. And so she just realized that. She thought, you know what, let's just kind of have a hat. When we do the thing in the backyard, people throw money in the hat, and then we'll pick out somebody who's a caregiver for a cancer patient, and we'll give them the money in the hat. So they can go get some help for the weekend, get a free weekend away or something like that. And we'll usually get, we have anywhere from like about 40 to 100 people come in the backyard. And because we're really bad at kind of marketing, I don't know where they'd all park if more showed up anyway. But we'll get like $1,000 or $2,000 sometimes. I mean, usually like upper hundreds to, between $1,000 and $2,000.
Oh my gosh. And
it's cool. It's a nice thing where it's like, please just come and eat. You don't have to put any money in the hat, but if you want to, this is what we're doing it for, and just come on and hang out.
That's awesome.
And so we do that every mid-October. And then from the gumbo perspective, we don't do music, but we do the gum bowl, GUMBOWL. We do that every January 1st, which is our anniversary. We've done that I've done since before we were married, like probably been doing about 24, 25 years. Right.
That started, dude, when I lived down the street from you in Bellevue. I was actually at the first 3 of those.
It is still going. But this year what we did, because of COVID, we actually took orders online. And, man, that took a lot more effort. We're used to just somebody ladling it out in their bowl and then go and watch football. But this one we put to-go stuff, and then they would come on the porch. They'd text us when they're coming, then they'd pick it up on the porch, or we'd talk in the front yard a little, social distancing and whatnot.
Crazy.
And so that's what we did this year. So we still did it. It just wasn't the same hanging and watching bowl games, i.e. where the gum bowl comes from. We just sit around, eat gumbo, and watch football and talk.
Hey Rockstar provides digital marketing software and services for your church to generate more interest, create more exposure, and reach more people. Let Hey Rockstar amplify the awesomeness of your ministry. And, as always, Hey Rockstar is a proud sponsor of the Stage Right with John Thorne podcast.
My thanks to you for listening today. Thank you, Hey Rockstar. My special thanks to Rick Florian for joining me. Don't forget, next Friday, part 2 of our conversation. Have a great week.